Hi, Bert Wilson with Dynamic Foaming, and on this video I will be showing you how to do the linkages for our models. And we get a lot of questions about how to hinge it and how to work with the heat shrink tubing and the carbon fiber push rods, and just some general tips on how to attach the equipment to your model. So I will be covering that in this video, and I hope you can learn some things from it. Okay, in this video, as I had mentioned, I'm going to be attaching a control surface to the airframe. And here again I've got just a mock-up of what you might encounter. This is just a scrap piece of foam that I've cut up for this demonstration. But what we're going to do is we're going to attach the control surface to the model, and I'll show you how to use the heat shrink connection with the control horns and stuff that we supply with the kit. Here again, some of the tools that you're going to need are, we've got some super glue, foam safe super glue of course, some accelerator or super glue kicker. We've got a brand new X-Acto blade. Always start with a brand new blade. If you try using a dull blade, you're going to tear the foam and it's going to look like junk. So you might as well just put a new blade in every time you start a project or start building a model. I've got a Sharpie permanent marker. Here again, it's important to use a Sharpie marker and not a ballpoint pen, because the ballpoint pens will run when you go to paint them or when you squirt the accelerator on. The Sharpies work really good, and this is a fine point Sharpie. I've got some CA hinges, some standard CA hinges that I've cut into little strips. And here again, that's about an 1/8 inch strip of CA hinge in the standard length. And we've got our heat shrink cut. The instructions call for you to cut the heat shrink into 1-inch pieces. So we've got some 1-inch pieces here. I've got some needle nose pliers. We've got our control horn. Other items that you'll need is a hot melt glue gun for attaching the servo to the airframe, and a soldering iron, just a standard soldering iron we've got here. So we'll be using all of these tools for doing this job. Another recommendation is, this is a testing board that I've got with various motors and speed controls and alligator clips. This is kind of what I use to test different types of equipment on. You can hook a speaker. This is a servo driver, and the servo driver is nice because it'll allow you to test your servo before you put it on the airframe. There's nothing more frustrating than putting a servo on an airplane that doesn't work. So you ought to try getting a servo driver in your toolbox, your hobby toolbox, because they come in very handy. So the first thing we'll do is hook up the servo driver, and this you can actually take and cycle the servo at different speeds. So if you want to break in a servo, you can do that, or you can test it to make sure the gears are good. What I use it for primarily for model setup is when the servo is centered digitally, this light will come on, and I don't know if you can see that, but on the servo driver, when this light's on, the servo is centered digitally. So what you want to do is make sure your servos are centered and put the horn down 90 degrees. That way when you go to plug it into the receiver, you're not going to end up with a nasty surprise with the servo horn being, or the servo arm being off center. So now that we've got that set up, we'll just set the servo off to the side. So the first thing you want to do is take your control surface and line it up on the airplane so that it's in proper alignment. And we're going to take our Sharpie marker and we're going to mark the top of it. And here is the slot for the control horn. That slot is the slot where this wooden control horn is going to be glued into place. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but what we want to do is when we go to line this up, we're going to put a CA hinge strip really close to that control horn slot. So I'm going to mark where that's going to go, that first one next to the slot, and then you'll come out here and put another one in. We'll come in about 3/4 of an inch from the edge, and here again, it's your hinge is going to be extremely close to the control horn. That's so when the servo pushes on the horn that the control surface doesn't flex up and down. So you always want to get your hinge right next to it. And then on the outside, you just want to come in a little bit from the outside edge so you don't have to worry about cutting through with the slot. Now there's a lot of different methods for attaching the control surface to the model, and I prefer the CA hinge strips. It is a much cleaner appearance. Lots of guys use tape, the Blenderham or the medical tape, they'll use that for hinging. From my experience, out of the hundreds and hundreds of models that I've built, that tape is practically useless. You might as well throw it in the medicine cabinet and use it for a Band-Aid next time you need it. The tape will loosen up and peel off the control surface, and a paint job over the top of tape looks extremely bad. And here again, once the tape becomes loose and you've already painted the model, it looks really trashy after that. The CA hinges, I've never had a CA hinge pull out of a model. It's a very dependable hinge. It's a very clean hinge for scale appearance. And here again, just two CA hinges placed here and here would be plenty for this. On a longer aileron, typical of our larger wingspan models, I would use 3 CA hinges equally spaced, or 3 little strips. So for the elevons on our pusher jets, typically 2 is plenty. So after we mark where the hinges are going to go, on the underside of the control surface, taking your X-Acto blade, you want to bevel at approximately 45 degrees that leading edge of the material. And here again, it's just an approximate 45 degrees. And if you end up with a little flat spot on the top edge where you didn't trim it exactly to the edge, that's fine too. We just want to get most of the material off. So here we've got a hinged control surface, and that's at approximately 45 degrees. And we made those little black marks on the model, so you want to take your X-Acto knife and slot where the CA hinge is going to go. So we'll take and cut slots in the control surface, the part that's going to move. We'll cut slots in